It's November 26, 2023 at 2:22 a.m. Well, why do people begin to get gang stalked? And by the way, I can't stand that term. They're not gangs. They're a bunch of morons. There are Citizen Corps, the Neighborhood Watch, the COPS program, which I call Citizens on Patrol. It's funded by the Department of Justice. Yes, it's the money it's funneled into every state, usually through the governor's office, and trickles down to the various law enforcement agencies, lawyers, etc. And then you have these Citizens on Patrol, the Neighborhood Watch, vigilante stalkers. But who's watching them? It's revenge for hire. They're vigilantes, vindictive, they're spiteful. But what we need to do is we need to expose them. It's organized persecution. It's a smear campaign. They warn people about the target. Oh, yeah. But these people are such idiot morons. They don't do any research, right? They just go along to get along because they're in it for the money, they're in it for the fun, and they're psychotic. They're addicted to chaos. Most of them have other addictions also. It is a subculture. It's the gang stalking subculture. So we're going to continue reading Global Thuggery Insights on Control by Terror, Torture, Targeting American Citizens by Corkin Cherubini. My name is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. I moved from Manalapan, New Jersey, in a home I lived in for 30 years as original owner, and I became targeted there at least in 2012 when the Manalapan Police Department losers were harassing me, unmercifully stalking me, breaking into my house, and pooping all over my backyard. And yes, I can prove it. I don't say anything that I can't prove. They falsify police reports all to bloat the watch list so they can get little bonuses in their pockets. And also, any friends that don't like you, that want to target you, oh, they'll just do a favor for them. I'll just pay a little bit money under the table and we'll just do a favor for you and we'll harass that person. They're all in it. It's their side hustle. It's the law enforcement's side hustle. They seem to be proud of it. They no longer support the Constitution of the United States or serving and protecting. Right now, they're only protecting the criminals. Chapter 17, Unwitting Victims. There's a reason that a huge majority of our population is confused, ignorant, and fearful. They may be unwitting victims of a massive plan for their own destruction. A destruction that, ironically, they have paid for and even supported. Many say that the secret covert plan began when Harry Truman created the covert agency called Central Intelligence. He did so even after criticizing the existence of the FBI, which he saw as potentially too powerful, dark, and covert. Rather quickly, he said that he regretted allowing the creation of the CIA. Sadly, he did nothing about dissolving either agency. Neither did a string of presidents from 1950s to the day, except for President John F. Kennedy. Today is no different. The average American citizen has little, if any, knowledge of what our covert agencies are framing. And even if they did, would they be willing to do anything constructive to curtail or even dissolve groups that are unrestricted and creating havoc in the lives of innocent Americans? Number 18. New Animal Farm Order. Update. Farm Barn Meeting Hall. Attendance required. Old goat Saggy wraps her hoof for quiet. Welcome to our 1921 Animal Farm Government Meeting. I'm sad. So many of our animals could not be here because of the bird flu and lethargic malaise syndrome, but thanks to our average growing jackal and rat populations, we at least have enough for a quorum. As a side, folks, the author of this book is a sarcastic and humorous. And now, the only elite controlling pig who can be with us today is Lady Chitter the Second. She represents our control group leaders. So, with no further ado, let's give Lady Chitter a blaring, baying, squealing welcome. Thank you, Saggy and all animal friends. After a long pause, Lady Chitter continues. Yes, quiet now. I just heard that the last of our feline species died after a tragic accident. Let us have a moment of silence in memory of Sylvester. The animals stopped milling around and heads bowed observed the moment of silence. Very well now. How did Sly die? A gruff voice interrupted. Glad you asked, Govy Mule. Sly was playing mouse and cat with a few of the newer rat population, and he accidentally bit his own throat. Many of the rats thought he might have committed suicide. Of course, it would be the best, since Sly made many of our new rat populations nervous. And we do not want to try hard to treat our newer, different animal citizens with respect, especially our rats and jackals. They both have an important role in helping to establish our new farm order, NFO. In fact, many of our jackal friends are with me here tonight. Keep an eye on things. Would any of the jackals like to say a few words to our group? Lady Chitter pauses and looks over to the crowd of animals before continuing. I don't see any at the moment, but they're here, slinking about everywhere. I'll just say these jackals have served us pigs and our NFO very well. There is nothing, when I say nothing, I mean nothing the jackals won't do to help the most elite among us unhesitatingly. If you recall, Quacky, our last waterfowl species, made an insolent gesture at one of our most revered elite pigs. Instantly, he was killed and eaten by one of our newest jackals. Our NFO is much safer with our jackals and war dogs eliminating such insolence. And while we are on the topic of NFO security, let me just reiterate what a wonderful job the semi-robotic Snake State Security, SSS, is already doing at the Pig Palace. A lamb came into the palace uninvited and unannounced and was dead in less than a second. The programming and genetic involvement of our snakes is phenomenal. Here, we NFO leaders have to give some credit to the humanoid scientists and their undying efforts to protect all elite pigs. Even if we, the elite pigs, are secure, some of our security could trickle down to the entire NFO population. Sneaker, the jackal, spoke from the shadows of the hayloft. What about the sheep, Lady Chitter? Hello, Sneaker. I can't see you, but we know you're slinking and watching carefully. Excellent question. The sheep. Quite suddenly, 91% of our sheep population has succumbed to heart attacks, cancer, and other natural causes. Their population has dwindled from over 1,000 sheep to fewer than 100. Incredible. But who can argue with natural causes? Still, 3 of the sheep deaths do not fit the natural cause pattern. In 3 separate incidences, sheep were killed by their fellow sheep. It seems that some of the sheep began using their teeth as lethal weapons to hurt and kill their fellow sheep. We elite pig rulers, enraged by these horrible attacks, one of the humanoids said that something must be controlling the sheep to make them do such abnormal thing. However, we elite pigs know animal psychology far better than humanoids. We know we have to take action. After a meeting of the elite pigs and jackals, a consensus was reached. The only way to stop the violence is to de-weaponize all the sheep. That means removing all the teeth of each and every sheep. The war dogs and security snakes also agreed. Does everyone here agree? Long pause. No one speaks up. No? All right. The sheep problem will be taken care of. Farm friends, it is sad that so many of our sheep and our last feline are no longer with us. Even now, our last horse has been sick for many weeks and is expected to die again of natural causes. Also, our last cow, Bovie, is having mental problems, like many of the deceased cows. She has openly resisted some of the NFO rules and statutes. An overwhelming majority of the elite pig ruling classes feel that a workhorse that can't work and a deranged cow that cannot cooperate are nothing more than scummy food eaters. Totally worthless and useless. They take food that could be going to the elite pigs, jackals, security snakes, and rats. Because our NFO society is now rapidly evolving, there will be many of those who criticize. These will have to be preempted. Am I being clear? What do you mean by preempted? Saggy, I think you know precisely what is meant by preempted. If you do not, I'm sure a sneaker can demonstrate to you immediately. Sorry, Lady Chitter. I thought some of our animals might not understand. Right. Now, if there's no further questions, we need to move on to the main item in today's agenda. We are facing the belligerent front of another state farm, the Mostly Cows farm, the one we call Moscow for short. M-O-S, capital C-O-W, Moscow for short. They do have the right name, Moscow, with over 1,000 huge cows. They are not of our ilk. The jackals have been slinking around the Moscow farm for 2 months, and their information is indisputable. Number 1. They've been engaging in various types of high-tech weaponry of mass destruction. This includes sonic warfare. This tactic places cows near the edge of the Moscow farm, which faces our NFO. At precisely the same time, every one of the Moscow farm cows moos. The result is annoying, potentially harmful sonic waves of all frequencies. One of our jackals has reported headaches while on reconnaissance duty. Number 2. Even more serious is the biological attack from Moscow. On several occasions, their cows have been observed to gather on a hillside which slopes toward our own NFO state property. There they drop excrement, which eventually will seep through the ground and into our water. These are huge cow-dropping mountains of dung. Their actions are an undeniable act of war. Number 3. The dividing fence between us and the mostly cow farms have been broken in 2 places. Can you believe Moscow cows have been crossing over and gorging on our grass? Also, it is common knowledge that the leader of the Moscow farm is a direct descendant of Rasputin. P-U-T-I-N. Yes, Rasputin. Can we ignore that? Along with our elitist pigs, our jackals and our war dogs have met several times devising appropriate strategies. Our unanimous conclusion is war. Although I must say, we did discuss the possibility of a 92-foot-high indestructible wall that even a chicken would have trouble flying over. Sadly, a number of our chickens trying to escape have been caught and eaten by the jackals. The added advantage of the wall is that it would keep our own residents on the NFO. Lastly, I wish to thank all the farm animals for supporting me in the last election. As you know, I was running against the poor late Sylvester. The votes were hand-counted by elite pig volunteers. They did a marvelous job, as you know. I did get over 99% of the vote. But our next election will be done using thought technology. Using high-tech electronics, we will simply know from reading each other's animal thoughts waves who the voter is voting for. Now, If any animal here has criticism of our plans for sheep tooth control, the 92-foot wall, and the preparation for war with the mostly cows farm, by all means, voice your feelings to one of our many jackals. All animals are quiet. Thanks for your attendance. Don't forget the Elite Pig Palace has many programmed security snakes. Call in advance. Goodbye and have a happy day. This is inspired by George Orwell's Animal Farm. 19. Us? Sheep? Yes. But how? How could we have been so gullible for so long? Are we not intellectuals, educators of thousands, readers of socio-nonfiction and socio-political research, readers of scores of spy novels bringing with deception and corruption so expansive? We should have realized that the plots were not solely derived from authors' imaginations. Why did we not become aware enough to be concerned about doing something? Perhaps our blindness to reality is because we are a bit like you, and you, and you, and you, and you, Americans, steeped in propaganda, deception, and lies, keeping us corralled. If we ever begin to question or protest government operations such as the Vietnam War or Watergate, MKUltra, COINTELPRO, or the CV-19 lockdown, or thousands of others, we are labeled as part of the lunatic, fringe, paranoid intellectual, closet commies, bleeding hearts, or a few thousand other labels. Such heinous labeling is constantly reinforced by most of our news media and societal structures, so we learn. We internalize. Very few of us escape the trap. Thus, we are corralled into the sheep pasture or imprisoned in our own homes. When the topic of organized gang stalking comes up, we are told that criminals are to blame. Indeed, perps are criminals. But these criminals have government connections and are well organized from years of practice in fomenting civil strife and scores of interventions. We are reluctant to believe that our stalking and terrorizing assassins are not that pack of rowdy guys down the street or that sexist, racist, xenophobic men's club one town over. Yes, the rowdies and xenophobes could be a minute apart of a much larger organization composed of control groups with high-tech, traceless weaponry in every city and town in America, Canada, and the world. A good grass-munching sheep cannot mentally process a government-sponsored program that puts perpetrators of all perpetrators of all types above all laws and our Constitution. In fact, this sheepish writer was mostly oblivious to the destructive program that ruled our lives possibly more than 6 decades. 6 decades. 60 years. Just a coincidence? We believed comments like, oh, those calamities were just all coincidences. They happen to everyone, or of course, it could just be that old residual KKK. They used to be white sheep territory, you know. Such comments seemed to make sense until 2013, when we finally realized who the real villains were, but only because they wanted us to know. They wanted us to witness their power firsthand. Why? Would things have possibly been less critical for my family and myself if I had been aware of COINTELPRO type organized gang stalking? Probably no less critical, but certainly different. As one black sheep to a multitude of flocks worldwide, knowing is essential, believing is paramount. But who should one believe? Perhaps writings and YouTube videos of the late Dr. Ronnie Kildee and friends would make an excellent starting point. Please believe me when I say that in the year 2010, I might not have taken Dr. Kildee or friends completely seriously. In our herd, we were busy viciously hating red or any other color commies that society had taught us to hate with a vengeance. Number 20. No, you're not safe. Recent whistleblowers have warned the world repeatedly of mass surveillance data collection dangers. Their message is short and simple. If they collect personal data, they will use it against you. And I'll just add that they'll fabricate it. Yes, it's called lies of omission. It's sort of like taking a very long sentence and omitting several words so that the meaning of the sentence completely differs. All too often we respond, but I'm safe. I don't do anything illegal or wrong. My life is an open book. No, you are not safe. No, you are not innocent. But yes, now your life is an open book. Legal experts and attorney writers such as Harvey Silverglate have told us that the average person commits 3 felonies a day unknowingly. That's well over 1,000 felonies a year for just an average guy. I've not seen mention of misdemeanors, but one would assume that the count would be in the thousands per year. That frightening thing is that any one of these infractions could shatter a person's life. How can this be? Is our nation composed entirely of criminals? Apparently. Numerous legal writers state that no attorney or judge could possibly be aware of all of our laws, especially since new ones are constantly being devised. Thus, at any point, perhaps tomorrow or tonight at 2 or 3 o'clock, the decision could instantly be made to round up all the felonious Americans, 100% or so, and transport them to their final concentration FEMA camp residence. This scenario is not a joke, nor is it even an exaggeration. You probably knew it could happen. Even if you are a mainstream media addict, again, we should thank those whistleblowers who have made this strategic national surveillance plight a bit more visible. Can they make me do that? But surveillance is not all we have to fear. Since the end of World War II, scientists have been exploring various means of controlling the human mind, including chemicals, drugs, microwave radiation, as well as psychological operations. Mind control has been with us, no doubt, since the earliest of man. Generally, when we think of controlling people, we think of propaganda. I do not speak of simple propaganda. Simple propaganda can also be detected usually by reading or hearing 2 opposing views, armed with factual data or education and some knowledge of propaganda techniques. Earlier man had a chance of preventing outside control of his mind. No longer. Enter mind control experimentation on concentration camp victims. This experimentation was so inhumane that it is impossible for normal humans to conceive what the victims endured. Then in 1945, concentration camps were closed, and the experimenters were secretly brought to the United States in Operation Paperclip to continue their research and experimentation along with the CIA mind control scientists. CIA's MK-Ultra, with its 148 sub-projects, continued the quest for methods of controlling the human mind for nearly 2 decades. Utilizing ever-increasing high technology, our scientists and their collaborators created an unimaginable torture, trauma, and murder program specializing in drugs like LSD and making rapid progress with electronic control. It is impossible to know how many innocent children and adults fell victim non-consensually to the experimenters because most of the records for the 50s and 60s were destroyed prior to the 1970s Senate investigation. It's all right, destroy the evidence. And they try to destroy the evidence of targeted people after we collect it. After the investigation, the MK program likely continued, but as an extremely secretive program. By 2017, newer biochemical formulations in supercomputers have helped turn man's most precious asset, his mind, into his worst enemy. It is now a mind that can be filled very quickly with thoughts, ideas, words, messages, or commands that totally bypass the all-important filtering mechanism, the conscious mind, and go directly to the subconscious. Our minds are now theirs to provoke a suicide if they like, theirs to provoke insane rage at a celebrity event to amuse themselves, theirs to provoke anything. They do it remotely. And the provoked words and actions are saved into a super storage computer for the future use. Bongino and Binney have warned, if they collect data, they will use it against us. With mind control, they can get you easily. Even if you're Mr. or Ms. Model Citizen, it doesn't matter. They control your words and your behavior, and they save the damning information until they're ready to get you. But I'm too small. I'm invisible to the big deep state controllers. Or I'm too big. The deep state thugs wouldn't dare touch anyone with my credentials and contacts. This author's own words and thoughts prior to the more overt stage of targeting or gang stalking. No, you're not safe. 21. What to do? The terror, torture, termination program finally makes it to your home unannounced, but clearly what you're experiencing are covert squads of death that you have heard hushed whispers about you. You had thought the havoc caused by them was something that happens to presidents or their families or friends, or to civil rights leaders or whistleblower activist types, or to anyone that perpetrators might be jealous of or prejudiced against. But when you realize that you, Mr. or Mrs. Average Citizen, have become the target of well-trained killers, it all begins to seem much worse than the hushed whisperers implied. You suddenly understand the term silent Holocaust and are appalled by the implications. Within months you are told in thousands of ways that the end result really is termination. Extermination of you, your family, friends, and pets. Soon you begin to witness those close to you dying, strange quote-unquote accidents, stranger quote-unquote suicides, even stranger quote-unquote rare diseases carried by vectors, germs, or viruses. Most will die of quote-unquote natural causes, none of which you believe, because by then you have read the gang-stalking, targeted individual literature, and what's available, that is, because it is indeed a secret program of terror, torture, and termination. Your world turns surreal. The deaths and torrid maladies occurring around you begin to seem as surreal as your new life. You realize that those murdering you and your family are the very ones whose salaries you have paid for the past 20 and 30 and 40 years. These are the ones who can flash an official document to friends, neighbors, and coworkers, immediately command their cooperation, services, or possibly even their homes. These quote-unquote friends, neighbors, and coworkers may suddenly find their bank accounts swollen or their driveways too small because of the new suburban SUV gifts for cooperation. You see their perping and pimping and feel the slow kill taking its toll as they sabotage and vandalize your home and vehicles. You're amazed to discover that all media, politicians, churches, professionals, human rights groups are, in a word, unwilling and or frightened to raise a finger to help. No wonder you believe them to be complicit. And you sit amazed and you wonder what to do. The electronic orchestra from hell drones on inside your head. It never stops. And you wonder if they are at the moment influencing your very decisions. You think harder about what is happening to your family and your few remaining real friends, if that is, any exists. Should I do something? You ask yourself. No, screams the orchestra in your head. Anything you do would be politically incorrect. You don't need to prove you're a terrorist. We've arranged that proof years ago. You know what you have to do. You attempt to block the tinnitus orchestra. You know why many targeted individuals call the microwave-driven messages devil shit. The devil seemed to be crapping for political correctness. Just enjoy your hellish ride, kid. We always win, you know, always. Sit and be quiet. If you do not obey and be good, just think about what we did to those senators who almost became presidents. It was so easy, and you will be just as easy to destroy. Sit, lay back. Get lots of pills from your doctor. The pills will help you stay quiet and obedient. No more pills, you scream. I have to save our nation and the world. I don't even know who or what I'm up against. So you sit back, breathe deeply, and let your mind become momentarily passive. As you relax, your mind focuses, and quite suddenly you know what you have to do. Resist, 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 but how? You throw your book on the table, look at it, and then pick it up again. This is it. The first step. You look at the bibliography, and the next 10 or 20 steps become apparent. There will be, quote-unquote, gang stalking sites and videos and more books. Buy and read as many as possible. After all, resistance is hardly possible if you don't know who or what to resist. My knowledge is power, guys. Number 22, OGS TV, Organized Government Gang Stalking Package. The 20-page magazine came free in the mail. You probably got one selling more TV packages too. Just what we need, you're thinking. More junky, vicarious crap to spend our money and a few remaining hours on. But wait, in my haste to drag my magazine to the trash, the array of new channels and packages almost escaped me. Our household, incidentally, has not had a TV that worked in the last 8 years. Even when one did work, we hardly ever turned it on. This situation could change if the TV packaging programmers have added what I think they have, a gang-stalking channel or two. For 7 years, I have been overtly gang-stalked, and before that, covertly stalked for untold years. Gang-stalking is an extremely complex program designed by powerful covert forces to ruin whistleblowers, dissenters, protesters, and anyone else whose name may appear in, quote, their databanks. After learning about this program, my first reaction was that, as well as its predecessors, should have been featured on every news show and every day and night for the last 40 to 50 years. Yet, realistically, news shows could hardly address the breadth and scope of organized government gang stalking. The program is monstrously huge, and the cover-up is gargantuan. OGGS needs, yes, the entire channel. 24 hours a day. Programming on such a channel would expose the effects of covert slow kill murder methods and covert high-tech torture weaponry used for such tactics. Programming would trace the MK Ultra COINTELPRO history of OGGS, emphasizing the practice of non-consensual experimentation, ostensibly for learning how to control the human mind, as well as tactics used to create chaos, hate, confusion, death, and destruction. Forerunners of OGGS were supposedly modeled on the Nazi Gestapo and East Germany Stasi, but the KKK was here long before, and conceivably the aforementioned group modeled on it. Obvious channel names are Viceland and F51. Certainly, these names are quite appropriate. Any country with a gang stalking program has brought into more vice and criminality than anything seen before in the entire history of the world. The F451 channel, I assume, is probably a companion channel showing the importance of fire as a weapon, fire as a destructive force, fire in psychological operations, fire for setups, frame-ups. 60 years ago, Ray Bradbury, in his classic novel Fahrenheit 451, depicted a world where fire trucks came in to start fires. Many OGGS victims, called targeted individuals, have experienced mysterious fires destroying homes and property and that of nearby neighbors. After a fire 2 doors away from my own house, I have been seeing more fire trucks during the past few years than I saw in the last 68 preceding ones. Viceland and F51, both great titles for gang stalking channels, if indeed that is what they are. I certainly plan to check them both out. Yet even if I should be presuming incorrectly about the possibility that some very important program is appearing after what has been a wasteland far too long, let me at least suggest the idea of an OGGS channel. Perhaps an OGGS channel is a bit ambitious, but time will tell. In the meantime, you can piece together entire worlds of information from OGGS books, that's organized gang stalking, articles, internet sites, YouTube, or even on social media. And while there's much out there, some is disinformation. You will learn to spot it. The best way, however, is to talk with a targeted individual. And I'm going to end here. But he wrote a note at the bottom of this page. He says, only a year or so after writing this piece, I heard that one group of TIs is actually working on such a venture. Okay, so now this book is dated, let me see, this is copyright 2020, so it's only 3 years old, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please remember to hit the thumbs up, like, comment down below, share if you feel inclined to do so. I appreciate all you guys. And I hope you had a great Saturday and a wonderful Sunday tomorrow. Or I should say today, Sunday. Signing off for now.